Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. So we have a special edition of Environmental Social Justice with my good friend Pavitra. Thank you so much for joining us today. Also, Miss Joy Langford is joining us, our in-house environmental consultant, and policy advisor. So real quick, I met Pavitra at the Los Angeles Metro Sustainability Council meetings. And I have to say, whenever Pavitra talks, everybody shuts up and listens because you're one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. And that is no joke. I mean, the amount of degrees you have is alarming. But first off, DeepRoot, we wanted to talk about your company and what you're doing. And I just exited a Beverly Hills commissioners meeting where we talked about water and the scarcity of water. And many people are not aware that in California, water is now a commodity that can be traded like oil and gas. So that being said, all of our reservoirs as of late December are desperately low in volume. So Lake Oroville and also the San Luis Obispo Reservoir are so low right now that we cannot draw from them. We are not allowed to draw any resources from those reservoirs. So DeepRoot, tell us about it and how you are going to save the world with it.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I am Pavitra. I'm so thrilled to join you all on this platform. Right away, I want to applaud Wendy, Joy, and Joel, the team, the champions behind this platform, for setting it up, but allowing diverse, at the same time, often dissenting viewpoints from different stakeholders coming in. So I really applaud you for that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to answer your question, we are DeepRoot. We are a global water technology leader. And our core objective is to build sustainable urban spaces. And how we go about it is through smart green infrastructure solutions that provide a more holistic approach, not like, short-term gains, looking at big picture, long-term planning, where we are able to promote healthy tree growth, at the same time being able to capture, treat, and reuse stormwater runoff. And when I say stormwater, it includes both urban runoff, meaning dry weather runoff, and wet weather runoff. So it provides this robust bioretention system underground where we, in tight urban spaces, we in Southern California, where we can take advantage, keep the functions of paved surfaces, but do smart things underground.
Doing it better every time.
Exactly. Yes. And the way we do it is, we leverage urban street trees. Often trees are looked at as, oh, that's a nice amenity. It's an aesthetic thing. And here we're showing, science shows us time and again that trees can be this incredible best management practice treatment engine that will allow for nutrient uptake, nitrogen and phosphorus, or reduction of urban pollutants like heavy metals or hydrocarbons. So think of transferring this waste, like stormwater that is just gushed out, sent downstream to the catch basin, and using that for growing your trees that helps build urban canopy, at the same time be able to smartly treat runoff and potentially reuse it.
So I love the fact you brought up the whole urban canopies, because one of the biggest issues we have in cities is, the urban heat, these high heat islands that we're creating, and people who generally live in inner cities are not of the best health. We have the elderly, we have people with compromised immune systems. So they are the ones most greatly affected by this. So, people don't realize it's not just about the stormwater runoff, which is another big deal. We're letting that water just go right off into the ocean. And we need to collect that and bring it back in so we can reuse it. Even if it's not potable, we can use it for irrigation.
And use it for neighborhood cooling, right? That's an important thing. And you're right away, Southern California is one of the fastest warming regions, right, in the country. So clearly, and this aspect of shading is a critical equity issue. And recently, I don't know if you've heard about it, Google partnered with City of Los Angeles in developing an AI tool that kind of tracks tree canopy, and we are able to draw useful environmental insights, in terms of what exists now, so it can guide our future direction. And the findings are that over 50%, I think it's like 55% or something, over 50% of Angelonians, they live in areas where there is less than 10% urban tree canopy. And over 40% of Los Angeles residents, they live in extreme heat risk zones. I know this is not the perfect time of the year to talk about heat when summer hits. So that's the current plight.
We're going to be 80 today.
Yeah.
So yes, it's.
I've done a lot of work with Metro as it relates to the new bike path they're trying to put through Vernon. And that's like a perfect mix of everything you're talking about regarding the wastewater that's going down the LA River, trying to put canopy and bike lanes behind some of the larger facilities that I even visit. Such as Smithfield Foods, Baker Commodities, that are right along the river there. So,
do you have earplugs you could pop in? You're getting a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Right, I catch your point. You're talking about active transportation corridors. You know, where yes, Metro is a transportation agency. They're leading up this effort, but there is an integral part of active transportation that is so critical, you know, to especially now in after the COVID era, you know, that we are in, we are able to see how much we need public spaces. So these are like critical to our mental health, public health, and the economic stability.
And also Joy's worked a lot with not the subway, the actual train people. I am sounding like an idiot. Joy, the
Metrolink.
Metrolink. Thank you. I am a moron for breaking up for not remembering that. So yeah, I mean that's another huge one. It's large swaths of track, and then you got the barriers on either side that are, you know, I understand you have to have it clear for passage trains to go through, but another viable area to put in Silva Cells to, you know, maybe grow some canopy and keep that area cool as well, because those are high heat areas and they just radiate heat at night.
Yes, and they would go under paved surfaces, sidewalks, pedestrian parkways. So for today's session, you know, I wanted to, given the wide scope, I wanted to talk about 3 sub-themes, if we may call it. And you can see on my left, I know I'm not sure if you can see my slide.
I've got the screen up. It's still blank, so you might need to click yours to be active.
Okay, stop. Oh, so I should say stop sharing maybe, so you can.
Okay, now try it again. Go back into sharing.
Share screen.
Same thing you did right before this is of course happening now. We did this before we even started.
Oh yeah.
Which is perfection.
Okay, now.
No, nothing's showing up. You're doing the share screen?
Yes, I'm doing the share screen. Share. Let's see. We just tried it, right?
I know, we just did it perfectly and it popped up.
Okay.
That's interesting. Well, could you just kind of verbally go through it while we...
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm just going to try one more time. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We can always...
Because I would get a second pop-up screen to add to the feed, and I'm not seeing it this time.
Share.
Ah. Okay. Yes. We have a... There it is. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. So the 3 sub-themes that I wanted to talk about today, the first one is about design activism. And what I mean by that is being aware of the community, you know, where communities are made up of diverse, you know, people from diverse backgrounds and diverse cultures. And design activism allows for awareness of your community, enables us to understand that, you know, that people want to be part of communities with equity, not disparity. So it allows for us to identify, based on the tool that I just described, we can identify areas that are disproportionately, you know, affected in terms of COVID and areas for open spaces that we need. So it kind of enables us to advance sustainable design and, you know, be able to openly and forcefully interject traditional design with green infrastructure solutions, such as Silva Cells, you know, where you have facilities, you have developments with a very single purpose in mind. Now we can move on. I think it's high time we apply design activism and move on to solving multi-objectives. because there are benefits that can be derived: urban canopy, stormwater treatment, capture and infiltration, going back to recharging our very groundwater basin, that we are trying to fill. So that is an opportunity. And one more thing I want to share here at DeepRoot, we take immense pride and responsibility in terms of advancing sustainable design. Every year, we support it's called the Landscape Architecture Foundation. They have this Olmsted Scholars Program. So every year, they identify this young, great talent, for their ideas, for their voices, their messaging and communication. And we support that program every year in order to advance this theme. So design activism, goes a long way in terms of finding solutions to these challenges.
I do love point number 2, the charm of unsexy infrastructure. I gotta love that. That right there speaks volumes. I love it.
Yes, it's one of the very few things now. We just wrapped up an unprecedented election cycle. And, it's one of the very few things on the table that can actually bring us together and, bond us. And regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, things such as essential infrastructure, which are usually considered to be bridges and sewer pipelines. It's also these parks, these streets that are lined with trees, that constitute the first mile, last mile, to the destination. Those are critical, essential infrastructure too. And now more than any other times, during COVID, we understand the value of that. So I think our collective sentiment about such green infrastructure is nonpartisan. It's not a partisan point,
What are we looking to see in this new administration as far as implementation of these types of infrastructures? And how can it be done effectively, inexpensively, in light of the fact that we've got COVID going on and the top budget line is going to be obviously COVID, but we still need to work on some of the issues.
Great, that's a great question. Thank you, Joy. So there are multiple parts to answering that. One is about the policy. And luckily here, being in California, either Northern California or Southern California, we have some incredible policies in place, whereas in terms of enforcement, maybe, we can tweak, there are different levers that we could tweak and adjust. But in terms of policy and implementation, and so that is a key aspect, to be able to enforce that and make sure that it's uniformly in a streamlined fashion, it's carried out. But the second biggest thing I want to talk about is the delivery of green infrastructure projects. Meaning, let me give an example. For City of Los Angeles, this is back in 2004, where a $500 million water bond, was passed supporting water quality improvement projects. They are GI, green infrastructure projects. And it took over 10 years for the city, to be able to implement. It was a bond that was passed, but it's that long that it took to implement those projects, because we still have those traditional ways of delivering these projects. So if we are able to bring in and leverage innovation, be it design build projects or, public-private partnerships to make them happen, we got to move quicker. Like we are in LA County, Measure W was passed, 2019. Just last year, 2019, 1 year, close to $280 million were collected. People actually paid property tax, and that is what was collected towards water quality improvement projects. So now we got to have a more efficient, robust, a working way of taking these funds and being able to use it, right, to implement meaningful, community effective projects. I think project delivery would be key.
I am appreciative of you mentioning these proposals that get passed, these bonds that get passed. Tax dollars going to projects do need to be allocated properly. We have seen in the past where you think it's paying to one thing, but it's kind of going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we do need to have a tighter rein on that, and also efficiently executing the process. Because so many times, I'm heavily involved in wildfires. And most people just love to sit and pontificate and write papers and discuss it. And I'm thinking, that's not putting them out.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and Joy, with your pull in the political world, if you can get some people to jump into that, we'd be grateful.
It's the story of my life, getting people to jump in on policy that actually makes sense. So yeah, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of red tape.
And nonpartisan, because people are always saying, they defend the petroleum industry. Petroleum industry is evolving. There are changes, which is great. But when I talk to people, I say, what is it about exhaust fumes that you love? Please tell me. I would love to know what it is about fumes. I mean, I understand we get our plastics from petroleum. I understand, a lot of things made from petroleum. I get it. Let's just focus on the fumes. Do we really need that? That should just be not a party line decision. That should be, we don't really like that anymore, so we're gonna work on something else.
Yeah, and I think that's where economics come into play, right? That goes to my point number 3, which is the power of slow compounding. So it's a term that is heavily used in finance world, which is, if you're coming up with a smart solution to a very tough challenge in the world, whatever the challenge is, and if we are able to keep the focus and have this moderate, slow compounding growth, that is golden. We are in this world of fast returns, fast money return. Short term is the new gig, right? So if we are able to focus on that, that would prevent decay of long-term thinking, long-term planning, and having sound judgment. So, and that's where, you can talk about dams and large facilities, building those. But when you think about distributed systems, like green infrastructure, where you have Silva Cells or other systems that are under urban spaces, that's part of our day-to-day lives, those can add up and they can do an efficient job in comparison to putting a large seawater desal plant, where if you look at the economics, going back to economics, we're talking over $2,000 per acre foot of water, through a desal plant.
And then what do you do with the super salty water?
The San Diego one isn't doing too well. So, we want to, desal could be an answer for something, but it's not the answer to our problem.
It's not the go-to answer, saying, let's just do it, get this runoff, and that's the end. Versus, what are my other options, part of the portfolio? Where
it should be a portfolio of options. You're right.
Ranging between $600 and $700. If you're able to achieve that, like in LA, we house 1/4 of the state's population, spending about 10 billion gallons, per day of use. And we have 100 million gallons of runoff that is just led into the oceans and our water bodies. If we are able to do something where over 50% of our water consumption is sourced outside our region. So if we can tap into our local supplies and be able to use that at the same time, build communities with urban canopy and green infrastructure, I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Absolutely. We just need to learn how to, the potable water is the big issue. And I know a few years ago, they had a terrible campaign called Toilet to Tap. That should have never happened. But there is something to be said about recycling gray water, black water, and reusing it. If anything, irrigation. There shouldn't be fresh potable water being used for irrigation ever, but it often is. It's just the same hose that goes to your house, that goes to everywhere else. So there should be that, division. But since we only have a few minutes left, and I don't want to take up too much of your time because you are the busiest woman I know, what would you love to see in the immediate future with respect to the water reclamation with what you do? What would be your dream to have happen?
Yes. So right away, I think regardless of whichever region we are, I think if we can all go back at all levels, not just in terms of, the owners or, the private sector, I think we can all come together, both public and private side, and come together and be able to see, the big picture, the value of building infrastructure and developments with a long-term thinking in mind, where we interject them. We talked about design activism, right? Where we are able to bring in and advance sustainable technologies. And this is where, technologies such as Silva Cells would further advance the goal for smart green infrastructure solutions and execute them, not just, they don't just remain as policies, but go ahead. And there are communities that have done that. City of Del Mar with their Camino Del Mar corridor that they revamped, or the Vista with their Paseo Santa Fe, they have stood out as these pioneering examples, leading through example. So I think this is something for us to note and, keep our focus. Yeah.
Yeah, just start doing. Now, if someone wanted to find you or Silva Cells or DeepRoot, how could they find you? What's your info?
Yes. We are ubiquitous, We are on Twitter at Rethink Trees. Our website is www.deeproot.com, and we are on LinkedIn as well. So please feel free to reach out and chat about your next infrastructure project, and we are thrilled.
And just adding in, Joy happens to be an expert in PPPs, because when I met her, that was when I first learned what the heck a PPP was, or what is it? Public-private. Yeah, I'm like, what the heck is PPP? She's like, public-private partnerships. I'm like,
Joy, we are using the same acronym now, right? For the
Exactly. And, Pavitra, I'd love to have you back as more stuff comes along regarding even the stadium and all of the building going on around Inglewood.
I'm thinking
and what they're trying to do with Metro over there, as well as, maybe some advice for the city council over there as far as canopying and things like that, because I think that's going to be really important in one of the currently developing areas. That's
and
going
let me just throw it out there. Maybe Joy and I can come out with a camera, do a field trip, see you guys installing something.
Yeah, you should join us at the Port of LA San Pedro Waterfront project. We have an ongoing installation. It's a large-scale installation right along the waterfront. It's going to be part of the protocol, the historical promenade there.
I saw the renditions.
Invite you all, to join, where you can see the bioretention and how things are happening together, how it's integrating with the existing utilities, how its open design allows for stormwater in and out. So those are things that you can see, live.
I think we're going to have to do that, Joy. Get your work.
I think so.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you very much, Pavitra. Thank you to the people of DeepRoot for doing everything that you guys are doing. And hopefully, maybe I'll grab my camera and crash your site.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Have a great rest of the day.
Bye for now.
See you. Bye, Don. Bye.